One of the most sad things I discovered when I went back to Tucson was that one of my favorite restaurants, Bumsted's, was closed. This place had some really amazing and creative foods, some really cool meatloaf sandwiches and special sauces, but one of the things that was a real gem there was their ginormous peanut butter brownie cups. I was able to get into contact with somebody at Bumsted's who was nice enough to share the recipe with me, and so today I'm going to share that recipe with you guys too. This recipe is totally the bomb. The warmed up peanut butter and brownie and chocolate levels just all mix up to create one giant delicious treat. And honestly, this recipe is pretty easy. It does require some finesse though when it comes to the temperatures and timing, so we'll go into that. Now the first thing that we're gonna need to do is make some brownies. Now apparently any brownie recipe will work here, so if you have a favorite, go for it. But if you don't have a favorite, the recipe I used here seemed to work out pretty well. For my brownies, I'm gonna need to start with some fat, and I'm doing this in the form of 90 milliliters or a little over 1/3 cup of melted butter and 1/4 cup or about 50 milliliters of vegetable oil. To that, we're gonna add about 200 grams or about 1 full cup of granulated sugar. Mix all these guys up and add 2 eggs, and then we're also gonna add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Just mix it up a little bit, and we're gonna also add in 115 grams or about 2/3 of a cup of melted chocolate chips, and this can be done in a double broiler. Since if you don't know how to do that, no worries, I'm gonna go into this a little bit later. Mix the melted chocolate in, and then add about 100 grams or 1 cup of flour, and 25 grams or about 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. Lastly, we're gonna add about 3 grams of salt. We're just gonna mix all that up, and that really concludes the brownie batter. So the next thing that we're gonna need is a muffin tin. Now, I bought a jumbo muffin tin for this very purpose, but if you don't have that, a smaller muffin tin will work fine here. You'll just have to adjust the times, and obviously you're gonna end up with smaller peanut butter cups, but I think that they'll still turn out really good. So while we get the muffin tins ready, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and heat the oven up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius. We're gonna need to grease up our muffin pans. I also just wanted to see if parchment paper would help with sticking, but it didn't really seem to be a problem in any case, so you don't really need to do that. Once the muffin pan is greased, go ahead and pour the batter into the tin and put the whole thing into the oven. Now here's probably the trickiest part of the whole recipe. We want to cook the brownies, but not all the way. The recipe I was going off of stated that the brownies should be cooked for about 30 minutes, but I started checking the brownies every 5 minutes or so after the 15-minute mark. What we're looking for here is when the brownie edges really start to firm up, but the center is not entirely cooked. It's semi-firm, but not entirely. For me and my brownie size, this came to happen around 25 minutes into the cook, or just about 5 minutes short of the full bake. If you have a smaller muffin tin, you may have to adjust your times, and everything will probably happen a little bit quicker. So just keep an eye on it and just really look for that stage of where the center is just starting to set, but not entirely. So while the brownies are still warm, pull them out of the oven, and we're going to quickly use a ladle or something else spherical to press down on top of the brownies to create a divot. Now we don't want to press too hard. This might destroy the brownie and then take all of our hard work. We really just want to create a nice little well here in the brownie. From here, it's peanut butter time. So I was told that either crunchy or smooth would work here. I ended up going with smooth, and really you just need a few spoonfuls to fill each cup. It's really best to do this while they're still warm so the peanut butter gets soft and levels off in the divots. You just want to have enough peanut butter so that the leveled out peanut butter after it's kind of melted is just below the top edge. This will help contain the chocolate later when we pour it in. But really the lesson here is just don't try to overfill with too much peanut butter. Once the peanut butter cups are filled and have kind of leveled off, I'm going to place these in the fridge for a little bit to firm up. Now I'm not entirely sure if this is necessary, but when pouring the chocolate, I wanted to have a nice solid base for the chocolate to kind of lay on top of and for it not to get mixed with the peanut butter. So a few hours later, we can start to make the ganache. Now ganache in general is kind of a loose term, but for me what worked was a mix of chocolate and heavy cream. And honestly, I made way too much, so you could probably cut this recipe in half at least. But for what I did here, I used 200 grams or about 1 1/4 cup of milk chocolate chips, and I also measured out 1/4 of that weight in heavy cream, which corresponds to about 50 milliliters of heavy cream or about 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Now we need to do a double boiler setup, which I promised before I would explain. So what you want to do is get a pot and fill it with a few inches of water, and then using a glass or metal bowl that fits over the top of the pot, we're going to pour everything in there. And so you're just going to heat the water up, and then that steam is what's going to kind of heat up the bowl, and then the chocolate's going to melt this way. And what this does is it makes it so that the chocolate's not in direct contact with the burner, which will cause the chocolate to really just burn. So this is kind of a more gentle way of melting chocolate. So once the chocolate's melted, we can go ahead and add the heavy cream. And since my heavy cream was cold, it sort of really seized up at first, but don't worry, as it warmed up, it quickly came together. So you're going to keep doing this until the chocolate is nice and mixed and smooth. And that's it. We're ready to actually pour the tops. So get the peanut butter cups out of the fridge if you haven't already, and simply just spoon the ganache over the top. And I did all of this still in the muffin tin. I think you could do it outside of the muffin tin, but it was easier for me to keep them in. But once everything was done, I put them all back in the fridge, and a few hours later the tops have set and we're ready to roll. So you can pull the cups out and go ahead and pull them out of their tins at this point. And they look really good. And honestly, you can eat them cold, but a much better way to eat them is to stick them into a 350 degree oven or 170 degrees Celsius for about 10 minutes, at which point they'll become melty. I mean, in my opinion, this is the best way to eat them. And if you serve this to your family, it'll just blow their mind, especially if they're not expecting it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider sharing with a friend or subscribing. And I hope to see you guys all soon, and really stay safe out there. All right, bye.